Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to the channel. So this past Christmas, I was fortunate enough to receive this bad boy here under the Christmas tree. This is the Harry Potter 8-film collection on 4K and Blu-ray, if you're interested. And there's actually a digital version on here as well, which is really cool. But anyway, I have been chomping at the bit to get back to revisit this series. So this month, I made it my goal to watch at least the first film in the franchise to get that ball rolling again. Well, over the past 2 weeks or so, my wife and I have just devoured this entire 8-film collection, and it has been so much fun. So I figured, what better way to commemorate that than to rank all 8 films in this franchise? So that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm going to talk about all 8 Harry Potter films from my least favorite all the way up to my favorite of the entire franchise. So I cannot wait to discuss these with you guys. And I will mention that this is a revisit. I have seen these all in the past, but we owned them on DVD, and it was only the first 6 because the last 2 films were still in theaters at that point, or, not released in theaters yet, whatever the case may be. So we did actually purchase the Blu-ray collection years and years later, but at the time we had the DVDs, this Blu-ray was just way too expensive. So we do have the Blu-ray collection also, which I will mention before we get started that this one actually has special features on it, whereas the 4K collection, this guy here, nothing. No special features at all on the 4K discs. That said, there are some random special features on the Blu-ray discs, at least the couple that I put in for testing, but it is limited to one thing. If you want special features, you have to hold on to your original Blu-ray releases, or this collection here does have special features in it. So just something to keep in mind with the 4K release. But I am just super excited to share with you guys my thoughts on the Harry Potter franchise. So let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right in. I want to say right at the start here that there will likely be spoilers for the Harry Potter films in this video. Most people who have clicked on this have probably already seen these films, but just in case, I want to warn you right now, expect spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, then I would recommend clicking off the video. But if you don't mind, let's get going. So coming in at number 8 on my list is going to be Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone from 2001, directed by Chris Columbus. So I know what you're thinking. How do you put the OG at the bottom of your list? And it's not because it's not a great film. I gave this film 4.5 out of 5 stars. I gave films 1 through 6 on my ranking order here, 4.5 out of 5. And I gave the last 2 that I'm going to talk about 5 out of 5. So I love all of these movies. So just because the original comes in at the bottom does not mean it's not a fantastic movie, because it definitely is. Something that struck me on this viewing of it was just the music. Right from the get-go, you get that very infamous Harry Potter little chime. I can't do it obviously, but it's a very famous Harry Potter theme, and that theme is used throughout the entire franchise. So with the very opening scene, it's established, and it just takes off from there. It is so wonderful. And then just the special effects on this surprisingly hold up quite well, which is a little bit ridiculous seeing as this movie is now 20 years old. Yeah, let that sink in. The original Harry Potter film is 20 years old. That's ridiculous. But either way, I think the chemistry between the 3 young actors here is just palpable from the very first film. They do such a great job together. They feel like they've been friends forever, and it's just so awesome to see, especially with actors who are so young. So why is this not higher on my list? I really don't have a reason other than this one didn't feel as fresh to me as the rest did. And that's because I've seen this one multiple times, whereas the other ones I have not. So really, there's nothing terribly wrong with this. It's just something's got to be number 8. And this is the one that's going to end up there. So number 8 on my list is Harry Potter and the, I was going to say Philosopher's Stone, but Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, because I'm in the US, from 2001, directed by Chris Columbus. Coming in at number 7 is the 5th film of the series, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix from 2007, directed by David Yates. So this is probably the only film in this series where I could say the first half was a little bit more difficult for me to stay focused through. It was a little bit slower than the things we'd seen up to that point, but, that said, I still enjoyed it. It was just a little bit slower, and I think that's why it comes in at number 7. But the last 45 minutes of this, the last half of this movie more than makes up for it. And that's probably why I ended up putting it just a bit above the original film. But and like I mentioned, there are going to be spoilers here, like the ending of this film. So you get this is the very first time that we get the like personification of Voldemort. And it is so wonderful. Those last few lines, it might even be the last two lines of the movie. I don't know, but it's, he's back. Like the whatever the head of the ministry says, he's back. And it just like, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it now. It is so well done. And the wand battles, which I will probably repeat this as we go, it reminded me of like lightsaber battles from the Star Wars series, which obviously I love. So I don't know, this one has a slower first half, but that second half is just pure action leading up to one of the more memorable conclusions in the entire franchise. So I really enjoyed this movie. Like I said, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Like, I love it, of course, but something has to be down toward the bottom. So that's number 7 on my list. Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix from 2007, which is the 5th film in the franchise, coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 on my list is the 3rd film in the franchise, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban from 2004, directed by Alfonso Cuarón. So, for my money, Cuarón is probably the best director in this entire series because just with his other, filmography, Y Tu Mamá También, which is brilliant, Gravity, Children of Men, like he has a wonderful filmography. So, that said, why is this not on the top of my list? And I think it's just because it's one that has an unfair advantage or unfair disadvantage where I've read the book most recently and I remember it. And this is the last book in the series I read. So I think because of that, I understand that the book does it better than the film in this instance. It's just more fun in the book for some reason. But that said, I still really enjoyed this. I love the werewolf in here. Like that the finale of this where, they're going back in time and then coming back to see the events through basically a different POV was fascinating to me. I love how that all played out. And I didn't remember like how it was going to end, even though I'd read the book maybe 2 years ago now. So it was really cool to see it all play out. You get Pettigrew shows up here, the rat. He finally is, turns into a person again, Peter Pettigrew. I don't know. This is just a really fun one that really starts taking this series into a grittier turn. One thing I love about watching through this series is that you can see when there's a director change. And this is the first movie we get without Chris Columbus. And immediately, like from the first sequence of shots, you get handheld shots, which you don't get in any of the Chris Columbus films that I remember at least. So immediately, Cuarón has put his stamp on the film. And I love that because it gives that more mature feel, which is exactly how this progresses. Each film gets darker, grittier, and more mature, and that really starts with this 3rd film. So I really enjoyed this one. I love the finale here and just setting up Sirius Black, things like that. Like it just does a lot. It sets up a lot for the rest of the series. So I really enjoyed this one. So like I said, number 6 on my list is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban from 2004. All right, so we are now in the top 5, and coming in at number 5 is going to be the 7th film in this franchise from 2010, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, directed by David Yates. So I mentioned in the last one that Cuarón is probably the best director in this series, but for my money, David Yates does it the best in this Harry Potter world. I don't know that I've ever seen any other Yates films other than the Harry Potter films, but I think he's probably the best, my favorite director in of these films anyway. So to me, Deathly Hallows Part 1 has to be the most underrated film in this entire series. Everybody always talks about how this is just all set up for the payoff that is Deathly Hallows Part 2. And while it does set things up, I agree with that there is so much action in this film. It does not feel like all set up. Yes, there are some quieter moments here than, you will get in the next movie, but man, those quiet moments just help build character relationships, which I really enjoy. And they are frankly few and far between because right from the get-go, you have the multiple Harry action sequence, and it is just awesome to behold. It is so much fun to watch. And then the consequences of that, you get deaths right from the start. So Deathly Hallows is not, Part 1 and Part 2 are not afraid to kill off characters, and you get that from the get-go in Part 1. So immediately I was hooked and who is going to live, who is not, even though it was a rewatch, like I said, they felt like first-time viewings to me. So I really enjoyed this one. And then that action just continues throughout the vast majority of this. I love some of the shots in this as well. There's a lot of landscape shots of you have a small tent and then you have a lot of land around it. They looked really, really good, especially in 4K. I don't know. I think this one does not get I don't think it gets the love that it deserves. It really feels like the most underrated film in this franchise. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one. That's why number 5 on my list is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, 1 from 2010. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot. Like, how do I not talk about the finale of part 1? It is probably the most emotional gut punch of the entire franchise for me, because Dobby is one of the best characters in this series. I love him so, so much. And frankly, I remembered it incorrectly. I thought he had a much bigger role throughout this series, but really he's in the second film, and then he's in this one. And of course, like I said, spoilers, this is the one where he ends up dying at the end, and then they bury him. Like, it is so difficult to watch without tearing up. It is so beautifully done. So I had to interject because I forgot to mention that. I don't know how, but it's like my favorite part in the entire film. So had to add that one in here at the end. Coming in at number 4 on my list is going to be the second film in the franchise, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets from 2002, directed by Chris Columbus. So I think the reason I ended up putting this one higher up on the list is just because of the impact that it has on the rest of the series, or the ideas that we get in this one play throughout the end, like specifically like the Sword of Gryffindor and how important that becomes in the very series finale. So that and other things, of course, like I think the first Horcrux is in this film. So this is just very important when it comes to the franchise as a whole. So I think that's why I ended up putting this one up higher, but this is still a really good film. Like, I love it so much. With this is the last film performance we get with Richard Harris as Dumbledore. And don't get me wrong, Dumbledore is great throughout the rest of the series as well. Gamden, I believe is his name. He's wonderful, but to me, there's just a night and day difference. Like, there is a palpable difference between Gamden's Dumbledore and Richard Harris's Dumbledore. And for my money, Harris does it the best. Like, he's just a quieter, slower, more deliberate character than we get with Dumbledore in the rest of the series. So I really like it. I love him as he goes as well, but just in a different way. So, this is also the film where I love Hagrid. He is probably my favorite character in the entire series. And in the first film, they set him up really nicely to be this great character. But in the second film was when that really takes off. The finale of this with Hagrid getting the standing ovation from the students is just wonderful. He is just such a genuine, sweet, and I don't know, caring character. I love him so much. We also get introduced to Dobby in this film, who I absolutely love, that I've already mentioned. Watching the end sequence where he becomes a free slave is just so heartwarming, and it's just sweet. Those are some of the reasons that I put this one up here. But another one is just the car. The flying car is so much fun in this film. It is like a repeating theme, a repeating motif as the movie goes on. It just keeps showing up. The travel there is hilarious, but then where it really stands out is in the forest when he starts going to the spiders. That is such a creepy sequence, which is like the first creepy sequence we get in the entire series, because you don't really get that in the first one nearly as much. So I loved it. That's why Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is going to end up at number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my list is going to be Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince from 2009, directed by David Yates. So this is the 6th film in the franchise, and really this to me is where it starts getting really dark, and I love that because of it. So there was even like a point in this film where they're in it's like a cave system or whatever, where there's a jump scare, and it got me. I was not expecting that at all. But really what stands out most about this film has to be that ending. Of course, this is where Snape kills Dumbledore, and it is just shocking to watch. So really that's what makes this one stand above the rest. Of course, there are other incredible moments here. Really, we get the return of Draco Malfoy. He was kind of absent for like 2 or 3 of the films in the middle there, and he makes a return here, which of course they're setting him up to be the one to kill Dumbledore, but then the ending happens and that's not exactly what goes down. But so I thought it was interesting to have his character return. I love a lot of the relationships that are kind of blossoming here. I really enjoy those. So this is one where just the darkness meter and the gritty meter gets turned up even another notch, and it's so much fun to watch because of that. I love that in this series. So that is why Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, film number 6, ends up at number 3 on my list. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire from 2005, directed by Mike Newell. So this to me was the most shocking on this list, because I remember really disliking this film the first time I watched it. But I don't know. This time around, it really did it for me. Like the relationships between the characters, I thought were just hilarious. Where I didn't enjoy it the first time, I loved watching these like awkward teenagers go through this like dance, and then all of the action sequences that were between it. Robert Pattinson is in this one, and I think he does a really good job. I really like his character and just the arc that it has. The final moments of him and his father are just heartbreaking, obviously after Pattinson's character passes away. Like, it is just a really well done film that I was rolling from start to finish. I was laughing so hard. So though this one was my least favorite around the first time, this now is my second favorite in the franchise. I loved it so much, and I would happily go back and watch this one at any point. So number 2 on my list is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire from 2005. So, of course, that means that my favorite film in the Harry Potter franchise is number 8, the finale, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 from 2011, directed by David Yates. This film is phenomenal. This is an action film. It is almost like a horror film at points. It's a war film at some points. It's a fantasy film. It, again, feels like Star Wars at a lot of various points throughout this. This is just the perfect climax to a series that has been building for 7 movies, and it plays out so well. It is almost straight action, and when you have those quieter moments, which are very few and far between, they are just to drive it forward, to explain parts of what we've seen earlier in this series. You get the reveal with Snape. Like, that moment is just so heartbreaking. Like the weird fetus thing in the white room, as I call it, at the end of the film is so weird, but so memorable. Like, this was just a fantastic movie from start to finish. All of the buildup that you got from the first 7 movies pays off tenfold here, and all of the answers that you get. Yes, I did have a couple questions maybe at the end, but overall, most of the questions I had were answered from the earlier in the series, and answered in a fulfilling way. This is a movie that everyone needs to see, but you have to watch the first 7 to get to it, because it is just the best payoff I could have ever hoped for. I don't know of another franchise that does it this well. Has 8 movies in its run, in its whole series, and that last movie just pays it off as well as this one does. I can't think of any other series. Maybe, I don't even know if Star Wars does it quite as well, because those are really 3-chapter increments. So it just feels different than this one, which just does it in such a wonderful way. I am so happy that I rewatched this series, because we were able to get to this climax, and it is absolutely 100% worth it. This is a fantastic movie. So much like Goblet of Fire, that one I gave 5 out of 5. Of course, I have to give Hallows Part 2 5 out of 5, because it is damn near perfect. I absolutely love it. So that is why Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 from 2011 ends up as my favorite film in the Harry Potter franchise. So those are my thoughts on all 8 films in the Harry Potter franchise, and I am so glad that, one, we got these on 4K for Christmas, because they looked great. Honestly, this is odd, but I think the 4K actually looked better as the series progressed, which the last 2 films are super dark, but the 4K holds up well. This does not have Dolby Vision, unfortunately. It only has HDR, and that was a little bit disappointing, because I really feel like those dark scenes could have been played up a little bit better even with Dolby Vision, but hey, that's all right. The sound on these is phenomenal. It sounds like it just rumbled my house through all these different action sequences. Like, the 4K discs were definitely worth getting, so I'm happy we have those in the collection, and I will for sure be watching this again, because it is one of my favorite series of all time. It is just done so well. So I hope you guys enjoyed my ranking of the Harry Potter series, and please, this is just my opinion. Let me know what your order of the series is. I would love to hear different rankings down in the comments below, so please leave your comments down there. I love having more of a conversation with you guys down in those comments below. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video, please give it a like down below, and consider subscribing to Cinefessions here on YouTube. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, graphic novels, video games. If it's media related, I'm interested, and if you are too, you might consider subscribing. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.